I'd like to begin a discussion. This is simply part one of a discussion regarding the occult, what I like to call the religion of the doomed. Because of a recent event, I thought it would be good to have a frank and open conversation on the subject of the occult. The word occult is not found in the Bible, but elsewhere it is used always in respect to satanic worship. We know that the Bible, and I believe this is the final word on this subject. It does not give us the whole story, but I believe it gives us enough information, enough insight that we are warned of the dangers that are associated with that religion. People don't think of it as a religion, but it is. You may not think of it as a religion, but let me assure you that's what it is. It was designed by Satan in order to deceive the human into believing that they could get some information or something they didn't know. It was designed by him to develop into what I've just called it, the occult. But I think that in all honesty, the place to begin is with Satan, since he's the one who created what I like to call a religion. Again, people don't look at it from that perspective, but that's what it is. But before we get into this, let me just share with you that we're going to talk in depth about the occult. I'm going to share with you some of my personal experience. I was raised in a home. Most of us, I would say 90% of us who are living in the world today are religious. You know, many of us don't go to church on Sundays, but we believe that there's a God and that if we live right, we're going to go to heaven. That's a subject for another day. But I was raised in a religious home, but I was raised in a home that was throat deep in the occult. And I'd like for you to come back and listen to some of the things that I have to say. It was a horrible experience, and it left me with some horrible memories and some side effects that, thank God, by the grace of God, He has healed and is healing. My father, give you a little insight, was a medium. And we're going to talk about that. I wish that he was a fake, but he wasn't. He was the real deal. And so let's talk about the person just a little bit today who started this whole thing. And so in order for one to fall, when we talk about the fall of Satan, but in order for one to fall, he had to be at one time elevated. So I'm going to read just bits and pieces from Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 12 through 15. I encourage you to, sit down and read the whole thing. I'm just going to kind of read bits and pieces. It says, Son of man, this is God speaking to Ezekiel. He said, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God, Thou sealest up the sum full of wisdom, perfect in beauty. Now, I need to say that this is important. There are those out there today, theologians, that don't believe that Ezekiel is prophesying to Satan here. But I beg to differ with them. I think if you study what Ezekiel is saying here, you'll find that he is speaking to Satan and not just to an earthly king. He goes on to say, Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God, every precious stone was thy covering, the sawdust, the topaz, the diamonds, etc., the oxen, the japaz, on and on and on, the emerald. He talks about the beauty of this particular being and how he was clothed. I've never known of an earthly king. Even Solomon, in all of his glory, wasn't clothed like this individual that Ezekiel is talking to here. He goes on to say in verse 14, thou art the anointed cherub that covereth. I have set thee so. Thou was upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created till iniquity was discovered or found in thee. And so God is talking here to Satan. And he says to Satan that that you were perfect. You were perfect when I created you. And then iniquity was found in you. You corrupted your being. Jesus said, talking to the Pharisees, he said, you are of your father, the devil. And of course, we know that the word father implies original, something that originated with this individual. And of course, what originated with Satan, or Lucifer as he was known, son of the morning, was sin itself. Listen to what it says in Proverbs 16, verse 18, 16, 18. And I'm reading from the King James. I like the King James. I like other translations also. 16, 18. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. We're working on this book. I want to read to you some pieces from the book. This is a piece entitled "What Pride," or the venom of pride. And so, I asked the question: what would make a perfect being rebel against his creator? How could such a thing happen? How could a perfect being become imperfect or infected with a debilitating disease? So let me read to you here. How could such a thing happen? How could a perfect being become infected with a debilitating parasite, a principle? I'm using the word parasite, but I'm thinking of the sin principle, a parasite that would drive him to madness, a madness that would cause him to commit the ultimate sin, rebelling against his God, his creator, his benefactor. I believe it is a parasite called pride. This parasite that I'm speaking of is not one that can be found in a regular laboratory, but it functions in the same manner that as those that are found in our labs. The very definition lends itself to our subject. Apple's dictionary defines parasite as, listen now, an organism that lives in or on another organism, its host, and benefits by deriving nutrients at the host's expense. Pride is an internal parasite, a principle that we all suffer with. And as Christians, we should make every effort to eradicate it from our lives. Are you still there? Are you listening? Pride's venom travels throughout one's entire being, infecting, infecting and changing the very nature, or his or her very nature, changing the core of who we were, or who we want to be. It is a self-centered, all about me attitude. Where does it come from? How does it enter into our nature? The truth is, we have given birth to it. We gave birth to it. Listen, it is born from within us. Let me assure you, God did not create this monster called pride. If it was not created by God, then where did it come from? As I said before, we gave birth to it. I lost my spot. Here we go. We gave birth to it when we started to have an inordinate love affair with ourselves. It's when we start to think we are gifted above our peers. It's when their accolades cause us to think that God has given us something special. You know anybody like that? You know anybody who thinks that they're special, that they've got something that no one else has, that God has given them something that he didn't give the rest of us? Well, I beg to differ with them. Let me read on here. The truth is, we gave birth to it. It's born from within us. Let me assure you, God did not create it. It was not created by God. If it was not created by God, then where did it come from? We gave birth to it when we started to have an inordinate love affair with ourselves. It's when we start to think that we are gifted above our peers. It's when their accolades cause us to think that God has given us something special, something that makes us better than others. There has to be a balance between humility and good self-esteem. Too much of one, and we become emotionally bankrupt. Too much of the other, and pride is born in our hearts. Once pride is birthed, it takes up residence in its host. It demands absolute obedience. It deceives and debilitates the vessel that houses it. At times, it has demanded a life sacrifice of its host by convincing them that the only way to save face is by committing suicide. Some ethnic groups today practice customary honor killing, which is simply giving in to the demands of pride. Some have stolen for it. Others have lied for it. Some have cheated for it. Some have even killed for it. Make no mistake about it. It's not a guest. It's not a friend. It's a parasite. It feeds on its host, and it will unapologetically suck the very character out of you and I. Satan fell prey to this monster. Keep in mind that this was his monster, his and his alone. His baby, he gave birth to it. We know that Satan was smitten with himself. His self-infatuation caused him to become the center of his universe, shifting his loyalty from God to himself. What a sad commentary for one with so much promise. Let me read to you from Gordon Lindsay's book, Satan, Fallen Angels, and Demons. And I quote, Lucifer, blinded by ambition, chose to question the wisdom of the divine will. And in so doing, he committed his fateful and tragic error. End of quote. Satan, Fallen Angels, and Demons by Gordon Lindsay. Satan made a decision to rebel against God. Let me read to you from Isaiah 14, beginning with verse 12. Isaiah 14, beginning with verse 12. I think this is called the 5 I wills. Listen to what he says here. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? That was his name, son of the morning. How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend unto the heavens. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will set also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. Verse 14. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms? Listen to what he says. I said to you that the occult is a religion. It is a religion. The religion is designed and created by Satan, that people, human beings, would worship him. He wants that worship that is rightfully God. But not only that human beings would worship him, but that all of God's heavenly hosts would worship him. He became mad. He went mad. And I don't mean that in the context of foaming at the mouth, but I mean that in the context of making bad decisions. His decision, somehow, in his mind, he thought that he could overthrow God and remove God from his throne. I agree with Gardner Lindsay that Satan had certain creative knowledge. God had given him certain creative knowledge. And so he felt that because of his knowledge and his beauty and the accolades that he had received from the other creative beings, the angels, that he could take over. And of course, here in Isaiah, we have the I wills. I will, he says, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. And stars in the Old Testament speak of angels. And so he says, I'm going to exalt myself. Everybody is going to worship me. I want to read to you as we wind down here from the book of Ephesians, chapter 6. And so if you have your Bibles, go there with me. If you get there before me, wait on me. I'm coming. I promise you I'm coming. See, you can hear the pages turning. Ephesians chapter 6, beginning, I'll read to you verse 11 and 12. So here's what it says. It says, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil, his tricks. For we wrestle not, our struggle, he says here, is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And God gives us a glimpse behind the curtain in the book of Daniel, when he dispatched that angel to give Daniel the message regarding the Jewish nation. And the angel said, I was held up by the prince of Persia. And God had to dispatch Michael to go deal with this prince of Persia. Paul here in the book of Ephesians talks about principalities and powers. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I want you to bear in mind that we're talking about the occult and the danger of being involved in that occult. And let me just say to you, as I wind down, as I bring this part one to a close here, we talked about Satan, the fall of Satan. That's important because it all originated with Satan. That there are consequences, side effects. When you have an earthquake, you have tremors, after effects, tremors that come along. There are side effects, beloved. If you're thinking about getting involved in the occult, let me beseech you not to do that. It's deceptive, and then your entire family will suffer. Stay tuned. I shall share with you the struggle that I had because my parents were involved heavily in the occult world. Until next time, may God bless you, may God keep you, and tell somebody about this YouTube station. God bless you.